Hello, everyone. My name is Adora, and you are welcome to my session. Today, I will be talking about the 7 habits for highly effective engineering teams. I'm currently a software engineer at Microsoft. I have been at Microsoft for about 2 years, and I'm excited to be giving this talk today. So let's just get right into it. This talk is mostly about teamwork, like I said, highly effective engineering teams. And this is funny because I was talking about teamwork now, and my screen has something that reads a good team works efficiently together. And this is something that is very important. So I will define teamwork just to give you a little bit of context. Teamwork is the collaborative effort of a group to achieve a common goal or to complete a task in the most effective and efficient way. And the concept of teamwork is seen within the greater framework of a team, which is like a group of people, a group of interdependent individuals who work together towards a common goal. And the two most important words here are team and interdependence. The team is a group of people. You're trying to build an effective team. Your team cannot really be effective if the people in that team don't have that culture of interdependence. And that brings us to ask ourselves these questions. Okay, so as a team member, how can I go from being dependent to being interdependent? As a team member, how do I do that exactly? And that's what this talk is going to be about today. But before I go any further, I would quickly want to fully introduce myself again. Hi, my name is Adora, and I am a software engineer at Microsoft Mixed Reality. I am a tech content creator at Adora Hack, which is a blog that I created where I talk about tech, career growth, and productivity. Adora Hack also has a YouTube channel. I'm the co-founder of Unstack, which is a meetup that I started with my friends, and what we do there is we organize events that are more hands-on workshop driven as opposed to normal talks, because we believe that people learn a lot by doing. I'm also on the advisory board for VRARA Nigeria, which is the Nigerian chapter of the Global VRAR Association. And you can find me on Twitter at Adora Wodo. There I talk about tech and anything else that I find interesting. So going back to this definition, teamwork is the collaborative effort of a group to achieve a common goal or to complete a task in the most effective and efficient way. And now, before I go any further, I would want to say that this talk is based off of one of the best life books that I have read. I've read some books. I'm not going to tell you that I've read a lot, because honestly, that really isn't the case, but I've read some books, and this is one of the best life books that I've read, and that's what this talk is based off of, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So in the journey from going to dependent to interdependent, first thing, you are like a dependent person, and it's more, I can't do this myself. I need somebody to help me. And at that point, you are trying to embody those character traits that make it so that you become independent, which is more, oh, I can now do this myself. And at some point, becoming independent means that you can survive by yourself, but really, can anyone on earth actually survive by themselves? Which brings us to the next thing, which is more interdependent. Oh, I know what I can do myself. I have my skill. You know what you can do yourself. You have your skill. Let's do something else. Let's do something bigger together. And when we think about the concept of software engineering, software engineers in general, a tech team, a software engineering team, there are so many people with different skill sets that make up this team. You have full stack engineers, SREs, engineering managers, mobile engineers, infrastructure people, DevOps people, backend engineers, front-end engineers, Scrum masters, all of that. These people make the engineering team work. One person cannot be all these things. And even if you are such a great individual, you are so talented that somehow you are everything. In an engineering team, you can't be the engineer and then be the designer, the manager, like be the designer, the product manager, the project manager, and also the customer. Even if you decide to be every single thing on the team, you're not building for yourself. You are building for customers. Even if you are one customer, there are probably many other customers. So dealing with people, having soft skills, having people skills, knowing that the culture of interdependence actually makes us have very effective teams and create very effective situations and scenarios goes a very long way. So now let's talk about how to go from being a dependent person to an independent person. And the first thing I want to say is that you should be proactive. There's something called your circle of influence, which is things that you can actually control. And most times I advise people to focus on these things. Let me give you an example. If you are a student, if you are a software engineer, yes, let me give the software engineering example since that's what this is about. If you are a software engineer that just finished an interview, this interview, you don't really think it went so well, and the next day, feedback comes back to you from the recruiter and you didn't do so well. Instead of you to be thinking about, there's a chance that this, or trying to find the next person to pass any blame on, you should take that feedback and know the things that you probably did wrong. This would help you understand the gray areas that you need to patch and where you can, and if it's something that you can have control over, take control and make it so that in the next interview, you don't make that mistake again that costs you the next job that you want. And that's something that's really important, as opposed to looking for the next person to blame or a way to complain. Focus on what you can focus on where you can make impact, make that impact, and things that you can make impacts on. If you can drive change in some way, drive that change. If you can't, focus on that impact. There are other things that you can do to be proactive, and I'm going to be listing them, which is acknowledging your own responsibility as an individual, knowing that you are in control of your life and taking charge wherever necessary, not being reactive. It's not, you don't have to wait for something to happen before you have some kind of reaction. Sometimes take control of the situation and preempt things from even happening, terrible things that could have happened. Like I had said, focus on impact. Impact is very important in this case. Learn to communicate. Communication is a very proactive skill to have. Let's say you want to go on vacation and you know that, there's a chance that they're doing some kind of sprint planning at your office, and you don't want it to be the case where you've been giving some work and you come in 2 days later that you have to go on vacation. And that means that all the plans that your team has made, some things have to be undone because you were not proactive at that point when those plans were being made. Seek opportunities, not limitations. Learn from your mistakes and learn to be accountable, because at the end of the day, you should be in charge of your life and learn to manage your time. The next thing that I want to talk about is beginning with the end in mind. And with this, you need to think about your clear vision, your goals, who you are, what your plans are, where you are going long term. And when you have those things laid out, you can now make decisions that at least take you steps closer to your goal, because now you actually know what that goal is. You can't be somebody that is just going anywhere the wind goes or anywhere the wind blows and not having an actual plan for your life, an actual plan for your team, an actual vision for the product that you're working on. You'd never finish that product. You'd never go GA. You'd never release that product to the public for people to use. So there has to be a clear path. There has to be a vision. You need to have goals, and don't be short-sighted in any way. The next thing that I want to talk about is putting first things first. And this kind of goes, hand in hand with beginning with the end in mind if you think about it long term. If you're putting first things first, you need to know what your goals are. And based on what those goals are, then you prioritize. You need to get your priorities right. You need to learn to plan. It's a skill that would help you in life in general. And looking at the important versus urgent charts, if something is important and it's urgent for your team, so these are things with clear deadlines, and if you don't do them, there are possible consequences. So you should figure out how to do them sooner than later. If something is important and it's not urgent, then these are things that are very important as well, but they bring you closer to your goals, but you don't have to do them right now. In that scenario, you can plan for those things maybe in the next sprint, or if there's time, you can feel free to do them now. It's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, it's important. So it's something that, regardless of whatever happens, you should still do. The third thing is, if something is not important and it's urgent, then you should delegate that task. It's not something that requires your specific skill sets. So I've seen a lot of people recently that are hiring personal assistants, executive assistants, people that help them focus on these things that are urgent because they're part of their lives, but they're not important to be done by them because they don't require their own specific skill sets. And if you're in that scenario where you can afford to do that, then go ahead. Delegate it to something else, someone else, a different process, a different person, so that you can focus on what's important. And now, if something is not important and it's not urgent, and it's not something that keeps you calm, helps with your mental health or your physical health, maybe something that you just need to do to relax for a few days, a few minutes, a few hours, and it's something that is on the list of things you have to do and is always there, and it even plans to be there long term, why is it there in the first place? These are distractions. They are not connected to your goals in any way. So you should find a way to eliminate them, because these things pull you away from the plan. They pull you away from where you're going. And if you have a lot of these distractions, it takes you longer to get to where you want to be. Now, if you've done these first three things, you've become an independent team member. You've become someone that on your team, at least, can get things done by yourself once you know exactly what should be done. So now let's talk about going from that independent person to an interdependent person. And initially, when I talked about interdependence, it's people doing things together. We can do this together. Let's do this together. And now the first thing I want to talk about in that journey, that road to interdependence, is thinking win-win. In thinking win-win, you need to know that teamwork is something that is very important. It's very, very important in interdependence. You can't do anything by yourself. Win-win is very important. Let's look at this win-win scenario. I am an engineer and I'm building for a customer. I'm not just building for that customer. I'm building for that customer. I'm giving my skill, and that customer is in turn paying me money. So I'm benefiting from that money, and that customer is benefiting from that skill that becomes a product. So it's never really a case of, oh, I did something for you. It's that we did something. We were partners in this case. And that's how you should always look at various things in your team and even in your life generally. In your team and even in your life generally, you should learn to think win-win. Okay, I want to buy these pair of shoes from this retailer. I'm giving this person money and they're giving me shoes. Now I have really nice shoes and they've made a sale. Win-win. That's how it should be all the time. Next thing that I want to talk about is seeking first to understand and then to be understood. I can't stress this enough. I know that nowadays, because of social media, everyone has a voice, which is very great. But now that has kind of become a disadvantage because everyone's beginning to use their voice to oppress people. And if you're going to be someone that is a good team player, if you're going to be someone that is an effective team member, if you are going to be someone that should be an interdependent team member on your road to building an effective team, you should learn to be a good listener. You should learn to be empathetic. You should learn to be patient. At the end of the day, people are very different. It's crazy how different you could be from the person next to you. So being able to show empathy, being able to just listen to them, understand them when necessary goes a long way. And this is also how you can help create safe spaces for people to work in your team, create inclusive spaces for people to work in your team. And the truth is, this even transcends beyond team members, even to your customers. Are you patient listening to the problems that they have that you want to help solve? Are you empathetic so that you know how to put yourself in their shoes to properly understand where it possibly pinches and creating, and then you can create ways to help them fix those issues that they have? Are you someone that listens to them when they tell you they have issues integrating your API, or they have issues with something, or are you somebody that is a good listener as somebody in a team, either as an engineer or an engineering manager or a PM? Are you somebody that seeks first to understand and then before they start thinking about being understood? Because you're working with people. And the truth is, if everybody shouts at the top of their voice, nobody's going to hear everybody. Nobody's going to hear anybody. So sometimes you need to take a step back to hear what somebody has to say and then say yours. So in that case, there is a conversation, there's an argument that is not toxic, and people gain experience from that conversation. People learn and people move forward. The next thing I want to talk about is synergy. But before I talk about synergy, I want to define synergizing. So to synergize means to combine or to coordinate the activity of two or more agents to produce a joint effect that is greater than the sum of their separate effects. And I'm going to use an example as synergizing. I'm going to use a website. I'm going to use YouTube. YouTube is a very great website. A lot of people go on YouTube now to either be educated or be entertained. And joint effects make YouTube what it is today. Joint effects from the product designer, from the DevOps team, from the front-end engineers, from the back-end engineers, from everybody. I can't talk about the multiple teams that make YouTube what it is. So I'll talk about just two important teams: the front-end engineers and the back-end engineers. Front-end engineers create the interface that you see and you interact with. So you're able to look at a video, you're able to press the like button and you can see that the color changes from gray to blue. You're able to scroll down. You're able to see all the information of a video displayed nicely for you to read, and you're able to take that content and enjoy it. The back-end engineer is the reason why you can actually see these videos. It's the reason why there are videos to be seen in the first place. Because if those people did not exist, you'd go on YouTube and YouTube would be a very static site, and you would keep saying the same thing over and over and over again every single time. As much as front-end engineering and back-end engineering are independent skills, the reason why YouTube can be powerful is because these two skills come together. YouTube can be a static website. It will be a beautiful website, but I don't think I would go there as much as I go there, if I'm being very honest. For the front end. For the back end, the API can be well designed, it can be great, but if there's no front end to plug it into, then what would I be doing with it? I'm not a customer that is about to take your APIs and be calling Postman endpoints so that I can do multiple things before I now finally see your video. Or maybe I even see your video as an encoded thing, but not the actual video. I'm not about to be a customer that will go through that stress. So as important as the back end is, and as important as the front end is individually, when they come together, they create something powerful. And if you don't have the mind of teamwork and cooperation, trust me, you will not be able to do that. Initially, I mentioned that there are many ways that people can actually be different. And this is true. I saw the dimensions of diversity. I was actually in a training and I heard about this and I was wowed. And I went ahead to the internet to go check it out. And I was amazed by how much there's a possible difference between you and the next person in your behavioral, organizational, cultural, inherent, and personality traits. It's so shocking. How you communicate, how you see yourselves, your geographical location, the market that you're playing in, your language, your accents, your appearance, your gender, your race, your ability, your sexual orientation. A lot of things could make you different from the person standing beside you. And if you're going to be able to work with them, building a culture of interdependence is something that is very important. If you've been able to do these three things that I've talked about, these last three things that I've talked about, then you have become an interdependent person. But it doesn't stop there. There's one more thing: maintenance. You have to maintain that bar that you have set for yourself. And how do you do this? By sharpening the saw. Sharpening the saw is something that is very important. It's like, oh, it keeps you sharp. It keeps you maintained. It keeps you being healthy in every way possible, physically, mentally, emotionally, in every way possible. And how do you sharpen the saw? As someone that is working in a team, you recognize your burnout, you take breaks when necessary, you go on vacation, you distress, you come back. You rest, you exercise, you meditate, you eat well, you learn skills, either by reading books, watching videos, just trying to look for things that could help you gain more knowledge in your field so that you can be better versions of yourself all round. Because that's what keeps you growing. That's what keeps you growing in your career and growing in life. The fact that you are teachable, always willing to learn, always looking for how to gain more knowledge, and always staying healthy. And I'm going to close with this quote: coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. Thank you so much for coming to this talk. I really appreciated you sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I hope you also enjoy the rest of your day and every other talk from every other speaker.